Something clicked for me about my own language. It wasn't something I didn't know. I just hadn't yet connected the dots. It involves being able to make a sound. Now, seriously, this video is about the letter L, and I don't think it gets enough attention in my native language. And sure, it's unlikely you will be misunderstood. It's definitely not the trickiest letter to pronounce. But did you know there's two ways of pronouncing it? Today, I will talk about the light and the dark L in Portuguese from Portugal, why you should care, how to pronounce both, and of course, what my important finding was. It explains a lot why a lot of learners struggle to hear the difference between eu and il. Olá, eu sou Catarina. You're here at the Language Unschool, the place where I help you find your voice in European Portuguese. If you struggle to understand naturally spoken Portuguese, you're in the right spot because that's normally where I focus on is normally people's biggest struggle, and that's why we're diving into the smallest unit of the language, the letters, specifically the letter L. L. Just like in English, European Portuguese has two L's, two ways of pronouncing it. So one is called the light L, and where can you find it? So in writing, it will be at the start of a syllable, before a vowel. That means you can find it either at the start of a word or in the middle of a word. Some examples here: louco, ladrão, lenda, livro, localizar. Now, how to pronounce it? Now, the tip of the tongue is going to touch the back of the top teeth and drop down. So it's a tap. The exact same thing happens in English, as I just mentioned, with words like live, love, luck, location. So back to the original examples I said in Portuguese, and try to say them with me so that you notice what your tongue is doing. Louco, ladrão, lenda, livro, localizar. But it's a lot more fun if we put it into context, because pronunciation, if you think about it, is just a matter of awareness and muscle memory. If you practice enough and you know what's going on, you can do it. Não consigo localizar a lenda do ladrão louco neste livro. Não consigo localizar a lenda do ladrão louco neste livro. Now, there's more to be said about the dark L, but let's start with the very first thing. Where can we find it in the written word? It will be at the end of a syllable, which means in the middle of a word, like literalmente, multa, filme, calma, culpa, falta. Or at the end of a word, cultural, geral, presencial, mal, radical, Portugal. And the big mystery, how is it pronounced? This is a velarized consonant. You can see what the velum is in this picture here. So what happens is the back of your tongue goes up. It touches the top of the mouth and does not release. So with a light L, you're going to have a L, and here you have a L, very sexy sound. Now, the tip of the tongue can still touch the roof of the mouth just before the top teeth, but the difference here is that the tongue does not release, and it feels as if the tongue is receding further into your mouth, into your throat almost. So, la, 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 la. Let's look at those example words one by one, and I'll exaggerate the syllable where the dark L is. Literalmente, multa, multa, filme, filme, calma, calma, culpa, culpa, falta, falta, cultural, geral, presencial, mal, radical, Portugal. And now let's try to put them all into a full sentence. Rather meaningless, but still. Em geral, não há mal ver filme naquele canal. Mas em Portugal falta calma para fazer programa cultural sem sal e sem culpa. And as I claimed earlier that the same thing happens in English, here are some examples. Full, mall, pool, fall. Again, observe what your tongue does. If you're watching this video, you must know English, and therefore you can pronounce these words too. Then again, if English is your native tongue, it is likely you have been disgusted at least once in your life and you have said, ew. And that sound is exactly what happens when we produce the dark L. Ew, with one important difference. The lips will round. Ew, 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 ew. That just made me realize why some people will pronounce the word ew as ew. So you have to be careful here not to pronounce it e, ew, ew, but an e, ooh, ew, e. It's an e, not an e, okay? Ew. So the lips will get a round shape. This is actually what also happens when an L comes at the end of a syllable in Brazilian Portuguese. And this is one of the reasons why the two variants of Portuguese sound so differently. Mal, mau. Banal, banal. Portugal, Portugal. Literalmente, literalmente. Did you notice my lips, how the shape changes when I pronounce the L in a Brazilian Portuguese way? Literalmente, literalmente. But now let's see what dots I connected recently. I already knew that people struggle to hear the difference between eu and il, and if you can't hear it, there's no way you will be able to pronounce it. So if you cannot pronounce it properly, it's very likely you will be misunderstood, and that may lead to confusion. Not fun. But even though I had scrutinized how the two words are pronounced, I had never put my finger on the L as the cause for all trouble. So let's look at this. In il, we actually have two syllables, il. So in theory, the L should be a light one. So we have an L at the beginning of a syllable, followed by a vowel. Il, l. It's a tap, l. However, as you must know, I've talked about in other videos that final E's are hardly pronounced, therefore hardly audible in fast speech. That means we end up with, and this L by itself then becomes a dark L. Il, instead of il, if I'm pronouncing things in a very clear way. Yes, it will be a light L, properly spoken Portuguese, as I like to call it, Cinderella Portuguese. However, you're 99% more likely to encounter real Portuguese. So, il. Now, as we've seen with the eu examples and the way Brazilians pronounce the L at the end of syllables, the difference lies in the fact that eu, the back of the tongue will raise and touch the top of the mouth, and my lips will have a round shape, whereas in il, the exact same thing happens, except I'll keep on smiling. Il, eu, il. Do you have an idea of the impact this realization has in your ability to understand naturally spoken Portuguese? Let me give you more examples of words that are generally hard to hear because of the exact same reasons. So you have to watch out for final E's, but also final O's. So E's will almost disappear. Not completely, it's a sound, but we can call them mute, okay? They vanish. And O's, you have to be careful as well because they will often be pronounced as U. If at the end of a word there will not be stress, so it is likely the L before it will become a dark L. Listen to this. Cinderella Portuguese, ga, lu, light L, ga, lu. Real Portuguese, galo, galo, galo. Cinderella Portuguese, de, l. Real Portuguese, dil, dil. Cinderella Portuguese, males, males. Real Portuguese, males, males. Cinderella Portuguese, vale, vale. Real Portuguese, val, val, mole, mole, mol, mol, falo, falo, fal, fal, bolo, bolo, bull, bull. I talk a lot about letters that vanish, and I unveil a lot of other mysteries of why we speak the way we do in my free No Cinderella European Portuguese pronunciation guide. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Was this clear and helpful? I hope so. Let me know in the comments. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of this tongue gymnastics. If you need rest, like myself, watch this video next. 18 minutes of European Portuguese in your sleep. Obrigada por verem, obrigada por me ouvirem. Até a próxima.